Hi, I am Sarai Smith. I am the owner of Preschool Junk Chronicles, and this training is titled Creating Welcoming Classroom Routines, the First 5 Minutes. This training is specifically for children between the ages of 3 years old and 5 years old, but still under kindergarten. Okay, let's get started. So, the learning objectives for this training, participants will describe the impact of welcoming classroom routines on children's emotional security and engagement, and be able to identify developmentally appropriate strategies to support children during morning arrival routines, and lastly, be able to implement practical techniques that promote responsive teacher child interactions. So, how do mornings usually feel in your classroom? Using 3 words. So, if this training was a live training, of course, I would want to hear, people's responses. And some guesses I feel like I may hear is chaotic, busy, overwhelming, challenging. For myself, thinking back when I was a teacher, a lot of times my classroom morning routine, until I got a good settle on it, I would have to define as busy, overwhelming, and a tad bit overstimulating almost. Overwhelming and overstimulated can kind of go hand in hand. But I would say specifically overstimulated as far as me. I was overstimulated in my classroom sometimes during drop off. And why I had these feelings was because, one, I felt like I was trying to manage and take care of not only the kids that had already been dropped off, but the kids that were still coming in. I wanted to make sure that I was intentional with my families, and I wanted to, say good morning to them and their names specifically, right? Greeting each child by name. And I also wanted the rest of my classroom during this entire process to just naturally flow, and the children to all be coming in and sitting in their centers, and right, like this dream of that children drop off time is just smooth and that there are no hiccups, right? But that wasn't reality, right? Reality, even in our best methods of having a good drop off routine, we're still going to be faced with moments of chaos, moments of feeling overwhelmed, or moments of being overstimulated at some point or time of another. No matter how prepared you are, you're going to have those moments. The thing I had to learn is, well, how do you respond? How do I then put myself in the position to become proactive to my environment and not reactive to my environment, right? Because the top of the morning starts the entire day. Our mood, everything is set as those kids begin to walk into your classroom in the morning time. And if you're off, they're off, right? So I wanted to specifically dive into this topic because I feel like a lot of times morning routines and, even afternoon pickups can just be bypassed, but it really is the foundation of your day. So, why this matters, right? The first 5 minutes impacts what behaviors I can expect for the day. So, as an early educator, you are fully aware when students come into your classroom, kind of the vibe that they're giving you. You can kind of tell those who are a little sad or maybe a little hangry, who may have had a rough morning, so they have a little bit of a toot to them. You can kind of pick up on the behavior that you may get for the rest of the day. When it comes to emotional regulation, right? You know your students better than anybody else. So, depending on the type of behavior you're starting to observe in the morning in the first 5 minutes, depending on that child as well, will let you know what that emotional regulation will look like, not only for them, but for you, right? Is this a student that I know that typically can calm themselves down, once they've had food, or once they've, just had a moment to be by themselves, or once they get to go outside, right? You kind of put the two together. And then impacts engagement. So, based on the behavior this child is bringing in, is going to determine the type of emotional regulation that's going to be needed or that may be present, which will then impact our engagement together, teacher to child, right? So, based on all of these, I kind of have an idea of what our interactions, teacher to child, may look like. And for some, that could be a little challenging, which will allow you to then be proactive in your mind and prepare yourself for, well, I know they're exhibiting this behavior. Typically, it takes them a lot to regulate their emotions when they get really upset. So I know my engagement with them needs to be X, Y, and Z. This is kind of how it all flows together. And ultimately, if we are able to identify these three options, then we can lastly depict how our relationship is going to be, not only throughout that day, but building upon it, right? Because relationships take time. And how you respond to a child's behavior, how you respond to helping them become little human beings that can learn how to regulate their emotions, and your engagement with them when they are dysregulated impacts the type of relationship that you will have with them. So, what do mornings actually look like? So, a child is crying at drop off, won't let go of mom, right? I think we've all been there and we've all kind of seen that. Another child runs in loudly and disrupts the entire classroom. That kid that's super excited to come to school, and you don't kind of have to wean them away from mom. We want to normalize the chaos and shift our mindset. So, we understand, hey, by us putting in better practices, everybody's not going to come into the classroom and, have a smile on their face and have an easy drop off every single morning. It's just not realistic. But we want to be able to shift our mindset to not only understand that, but then also have skills in our back pocket to, well, how do we respond to that? Okay. So, step one, good morning. Right? I think a good morning is the foundation of everything. Speak, smile, say hello, good morning. Here I've broken down a couple of different scenarios on what it may look like when you have your students come into your classroom. So, one is when a child walks in happy. Things that you can say, good morning, I'm so happy to see you. Or, you look ready for a great day. Or, you brought your big smile with you today. Don't rush past the happy kids, the kids who are super excited to come in and see you and give you the biggest hugs. I know we love them, right? Don't bypass that moment, because this still allows you to build onto the strong relationship that you clearly already have with them. Okay? And notice in my tone of voice, right? I'm not just saying the words, I'm saying it with passion. You have to feel what you are saying, right? Even when we don't feel our best, we have to try to really put our best foot forward. And that goes by not only giving the right words, but giving the right emotion to match them. So that way, our initial response to greeting kids as they're coming in is authentic. Um, Next, when a child walks in quiet or distant, I think we've all had those friends that love them dearly, have the best behavior, but they when they come in, they're just naturally quiet. They naturally take a minute to warm up. These may be the friends who are tugging on to mom's leg, and they're not necessarily crying, but they're super attached, right, to their parent or their guardian, We've seen it. I've had plenty of students like that. And if I had to pick a favorite type of students, I think these are my faves to make connections with. Because it allowed for their parents to also see them towards the end of the year, right? As time progresses, them get out of their comfort zone. And each day at drop off is slowly better by better, right? Because I started to implement morning routines, because they knew, hey, when I go to school, I'm going to see Mr. Right. That's why attendance is so important. It's not just so your class is in ratio. It's because kids build bonds and relationships with you, and they depend on seeing your face, some more than others. Okay? So some things you could say, some language. Good morning. I'm really glad you're here today. You can come sit by me for a minute if you want. That was a fave. You don't have to talk yet. I'm just happy to see you. When you're ready, I'll be over here. Would you like to pick something to start with? See, these are easy, calming words to let children know that your presence is there, but there is no pressure to interact. This also helps your parents know, hey, I see them. I acknowledge their emotion. They're having a rough time at drop off, and I'm here when they're ready. Even though you're leaving, they have comfort as a parent in knowing that teacher sees my child. That teacher is acknowledging my child's emotion, and I expect for that teacher to follow up back with my child. It makes the parents feel a little bit better about leaving them. When a child walks in and is sad, oh, I can see you're feeling a little sad this morning. Or do you want a hug? Or do you want to sit close to me for a minute? It's okay to feel sad. I'm here with you. Do you want to tell me what's going on now? Or do you want to just sit together? Give them choices. We want to avoid the typical, you're okay, right? I've said it plenty of times before. I see you. You're okay. Oh, thanks, Mom. You're okay. Come sit down, right? I'm not validating the feeling. I'm just bypassing it and not even giving them an opportunity to respond, right? I am then putting myself in the position to label their emotions as if what they are feeling is not validated. And I know it sounds crazy to think that extensive into it, but that's what we're doing, right? Um, right at this age group, everything we say, everything we do in front of children, they pick up on, it matters, and they take it with them outside the classroom just as much as they exhibit it inside the classroom. When a child walks in crying, I've got you, you're safe, I'm here, you're here, it is okay. I know it's hard to say goodbye. Come here, let's take a deep breath together. Would you like to hold my hand? Right? These are calming, realistic ways to engage a child that walks in crying. I can't always sit when a kid comes in crying, right? It's drop off. I still have to move around and monitor the classroom. But if I can sit for 1 minute and position my chair where I can see the door for drop off and I can see the rest of the children that I have, just to sit with a student to give them a hug, I will do that, right? If a student is holding my hand, because I've offered my hand or I've offered my pocket, I'm still allowing that child to be close to me and next to me, but I'm still being efficient and moving about the classroom in my day. My voice is calm, it's slow, and it's low. And you really want to get at eye level in these moments when you have kids who are crying. the more consistent you are in showing them, not that you can get them to stop crying, but that they are safe, the less they will cry when they come to drop off. They just need to know that they feel safe. They may like you all day, and later on in the day, they're not crying anymore at all. But it's a consistent reminder. And when we have gaps of not showing up for work, not being present all the time, right? It's like we're starting from ground zero again with kids like this when it comes to drop off time. That's why it's so important to have those consistent faces every day when possible, because I know we all have, we're adults, we have life, things come up, but when you can be there, be there. Okay. When a child walks in overactive or super high energy, whoa, you brought big energy today. Or come help me with something real quick, because we're going to burn down some of that energy. Let's start with this, and then you can show me your dance moves. Or can you walk with me to get this started? See, my friends that come in that are overactive and are super high with energy, those are the friends that I'm having be my special helper. Okay. My special helper means that I'm going to have them assist me in anything possible that allows them to use their entire body. It allows them to use their hands, their feet, going up, going down. These are my friends that help me clean before breakfast, after breakfast. These are my friends that go around and check centers to make sure everything is cleaned up and prepared before transitions. These are my friends to round up the other friends when it's time to come in. Those overactive, high energy friends, you have to make them feel important. You have to give them a job, right? And you have to acknowledge that they have that big high energy today. So we want to immediately try to avoid the correcting or just saying calm down. And we want to redirect that busyness into something productive. So it's not what you say, like I said earlier, it's how you make them feel and how you say it. So we want children to feel seen, we want them to feel safe, and we want them to feel supported. This is what helps make the connection within the first 5 minutes. So if we are wanting children to feel seen, that means we want them to know I matter here. And how can we show them that they matter? We greet them by name. We make eye contact and we smile. We notice their presence and we acknowledge their feelings. Remember, we are still teaching, so we are still giving them the language to be able to even identify their feelings and emotions. So, good morning, blank. I'm so happy you're here. I see you're a little quiet today. So, I'm being observant. I'm still acknowledging that they're here, right? And I'm greeting them and I'm acknowledging their presence and I'm acknowledging their feelings. Safe. Safe means I can relax here. So that is a calm, predictable environment. Again, if an environment is not predictable, a child is not going to feel safe. And if a child does not feel safe, that's when you're going to get uprisings in certain behaviors. And that behavior can be seen as negative, super busy behavior, or it could be seen as really down in the dumps, crying, and not wanting to let go of my parents' leg behavior. That could be seen as trashing your classroom, throwing bins around. There are so many ways children can let us know that they don't feel safe. Something else that we can do to make them feel safe, again, is our tone of voice. Your tone of voice, that is like the biggest number one thing for me. How you speak to the kids, not only just your words, but How are you saying it? What is your tone of voice giving? Right? Is it giving that you feel loving and that I am safe here and that you are happy to see me here today? Or is it giving, why am I here? I don't want you to be here. We want to make sure our tone of voice is welcoming and it's consistent, right? Consistent routine matches right up with tone of voice. If we speak to our children in our classroom in a manner in which that is consistent, so they know, Miss such and such, she may get on to me, but it's repetitive and it's in a loving way and it's in a kind tone of voice, right? Same thing with routine. Children thrive on routine, believe it or not. They need consistency with routine. If their routine is not consistent, 9 times out of 10, you're going to see behavior strike in so many different ways, and they're going to let you know they don't want to be in that space. So, in order for kids to feel safe, they need to know what's happening next. And there are so many ways that you can let them know what's happening next outside of verbally. You have your picture wall with your schedule. You have ways that they can check in, moving around, shifting centers. You have your timers when it's time to transition to different centers, when it's time to transition outside, when it's time to transition into nap. You have certain routines that you do. That could be reading a story. That could be a certain specific song that they hear every single day come on. Routine, routine, routine is important, but it means nothing if you are not consistent. And consistent is over 30 days. It's going to take a minimum of 30 days for it to even slightly stick, right? Before we try something and say it didn't work, we have to try and really be consistent with it first. And that is giving yourself at least a minimum of 30 days to implement said routine. And lastly, emotional safety. Safety. So no shaming or pressuring. And I have experienced this with some teachers before, where they can, in an attempt to try to discipline, it's almost putting the child down. And that's what you don't want to do. So saying, oh, such and such is sitting so good, such and such never sits like that. Or you need to sit like such and such because you never sit like that. And that is just so sad. Why are we shaming? Right? We need to encourage that, yes, we have rules here, but also that you're safe here. So, if anything, go over the rules of what a safe classroom looks like for you. And yes, you may sound like a broken record being repetitive. Our feet are for walking, not for running. Please walk. I can be stern. I can be straightforward. I can say it in a nice tone of voice, but I can also not be detrimental to their emotional safety and making them feel like they're not wanted here. Support it. So, essentially, just letting a kid know that they are not alone. I'll stay with you. Let's figure this out together. Do you want help or try first? This can look like a couple of different things. I'll stay with you can look like mom and dad are leaving and you're trying to kind of pull them away. Let's figure this out together can look like maybe we're doing small group activity and they're a little frustrated and you can tell they kind of haven't hit the steps like their friends around them may have hit, and it could be frustrating to them. So you do want to ask questions like, would you like my help? Do you need my help? Because some kids are also in the space of building their confidence. And sometimes when we just automatically interject ourselves into the situation, it can definitely hurt their confidence, and we don't want to do that. And we also want to get them to a space where they are confident in knowing that, hey, they can do hard things. And that starts here with us encouraging them to do hard things, but also letting them know that they're supported and we're here. So I love the do you want help or do you want to try first type language. Because it allows them to know, hey, it's your choice, but you're not alone. You do have help. You are supported. And in regards to drop off, that could really just look like choosing a center, right? Giving boundaries. Hey, maybe you took puzzles, art, and dinosaurs out. Um, and they could be struggling to maybe put a piece together. That could be simply asking, hey, do you want help or do you want to try to build it first, or just little activities you can have out that could be intimidating to them. Asking, just allowing them to know that you were there and you were ready to jump in when needed, but giving them the language to use their words to ask for help. So, diving into a little bit of the science, because that's the fun stuff. Why the brain matters in the first 5 minutes. So, if a child's brain is dysregulated, they are simply not ready to learn. Point, period, blank. Okay. So, something we have to remember is that children don't walk into our classrooms as a blank slate. They walk in carrying whatever their morning looked like. And sometimes that could look like them coming in happy. Sometimes it could look like them coming in tired. And sometimes it can look like them coming in overwhelmed and their brain is already in a certain state. So the brain works from the bottom up. If a child is upset, overwhelmed, or overstimulated, their thinking brain is basically offline. It's not ready. That means no matter how many directions we give, how repetitive we are, they're not ignoring us. They're simply they can't process it yet. They're not ready yet. Okay. So instead of correcting the behavior first, we have to meet them with connection first. So children don't regulate themselves first. They learn it through us. So when we stay calm and when we speak at a slow pace and when we show that we are present, their brain starts to match ours. But if we come in rushed and loud and overwhelming, they also feel that. So we have to understand we set the level and the tone for regulation. So the survival brain. The survival brain automatically goes into a keep me safe. So it controls the fight, flight, or freeze, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you have heard. It activates when a child is overwhelmed, and this is where big behaviors come from. And if we know anything about drop off, you can either be met with small behaviors, no behaviors at all, or really, really big behaviors. So when a child is crying, running, or melting down, they're not being difficult. Their survival brain is in charge at the moment. So take time to really just think about a time where, you reacted to a child that came in crying or running or melting down. I want you to take the opportunity to think, how did you respond? Right? What was your response to that child? What were some things you said to that child? How did you make that child feel? What, right? Like, what were their reactions to you and your words and your redirection to them? So, shifting into the feeling part of the brain, this is how I feel, right? This controls the emotions, processes feelings like I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm frustrated. And the feeling part of the brain is super strong and active in young children. So I put as a note, preschool children, they live here. They live in this part of the brain at this age. Because their feelings are super big and they're fast, but they are also very, very real. So we have to be careful about how we respond. Then the thinking brain. I can learn and make good choices. That looks like problem solving. That looks like listening. That looks like following directions. And that looks like learning to have self control. So this is the part where we're trying to teach, but it only works when the other two feel okay. Okay? Only works when their survival brain and their feelings brain are intact. So when a child walks in upset and we immediately start giving directions like put away your things, go sit down. That thinking brain isn't even online yet. So we have to go backwards before we go forward. And what that looks like is, hey, good morning. How are you? Oh, you have such a big smile. Would you like a high five or a hug? Okay. Awesome. All right. When you're all done putting your backpack away, you can choose an activity. Over here, Mr. Rye laid out dinosaurs. I laid out crayons. And then you can also go choose to build with some Legos. So it's your choice. Okay. I welcomed them, right? Or good morning. I acknowledged the emotion that I could see present on that child's face. And then I gave my direction, followed by giving a child led option with boundaries. So it can be done. Okay. So, how do we do this? A little more in depth. So, stop preparing and start greeting at the start of your morning. Position yourself where children enter. Whether you're standing by the door, whether you're at a front table that's near the door, make yourself in a spot where you could be clearly observant of the children and families coming in, as well as the kids that are already dropped off with you for the day. Make eye contact. Use their name. Greet them by their name. I trust me, when it comes to new friends and things like that, I am a hey friend kind of gal. But eventually I know that I have to be more present and I have to learn their name. So yes, learn their names. If you're able to learn parents' names, that's even more of a bonus. But you learn their name and identify them by their name when they come in the morning. And next, be fully present, not multitasking. So I know a lot of times in the morning, we could be trying to cut activities and getting stuff prepped. Now, I'm not completely against prepping, but I am against the type of prepping to where it's too much for you to be able to prep and to say good morning. So if you have prepping to where you could even have your kids assist, that could be maybe something that's like a color sorting activity later in the day, just for an example. And you have two of the kiddos that were already dropped off sorting the color paper, for you into two different trays. That's type of prepping, something easy, something that you could do where if you get your attention taken away, it's not frustrating and going to be hard for you to drive it back. Okay. Small group time. I love a good small group in the morning and drop off when the small group time is easy, especially with friends I know that wouldn't be there later on in the day when I would typically like to do the activity. That is another way where you can have interactions, right, with those kiddos dropping off. But in the same breath, I would still be able to get up and greet other families, but my kiddos are still on task because they have something to do. They're just getting a head start on the day. Next, get on their level. So kneel, squat, sit. When that child comes in and you greet them, you should not be standing over them. You should be meeting them at their level. Okay, making that face-to-face connection. And again, with our voice, our tone is soft and it is calm and it is welcoming. And we are letting them know that we are excited to see them here. Start with a calm activity. So, for your morning routines, you need to have things already out. And specifically with this age group, you can kind of have a little bit of a lot out, honestly. I love a good writing or art center open early for drop off. Also, block center, I would typically do block or dramatic play. Dramatic play, I like to be a little bit more engaged when students are over there because I want to hear the language that's being used. So normally I would have that closed, but I would allow block center to be open. But I would also have my boundaries in which I would give some leniency. So though my dramatic play center is closed, I would take some baby dolls out of dramatic play and put them at a table with some changes of clothes for students to be able to choose as an activity, right? So though the actual physical center itself is closed, sometimes I would bring some of the items that were in the center out of the center and put it at the table as an activity. This kind of helps with those boundaries of home center is closed, but guess what? I have babies from home center at the table out, and you're more than welcome to play with them. And so it is again giving options, right? But I have my teacher boundaries in place too. Other things you could do is puzzles. Puzzles was a big one. And try puzzles on the carpet instead of the table. Puzzles on the carpet allows them to lay down, stretch out their body, move their arms, kind of roll on their sides a little bit. And it just gets them a little bit more comfortable, especially with drop off. It allows them to kind of chill and relax, but they're doing right a puzzle, so they're still working those brain muscles at the same time. Lead with connection before direction. So kind of like the example I gave before. Instead of go put your backpack up, try good morning. Can I have a hug or a high five or a hi? How did you sleep? And then give the direction of going ahead and putting their backpack away. Excuse me. And then allowing them to choose one of the centers that you have out for them to play at. So I am attempting to make a connection with that child again before I'm giving that child direction. And then a quick emotional check-in. So this could be a feelings chart maybe you have by the door. And this could be simply asking questions in the morning. So like how I said, hi, how did you sleep? You could switch it up for every single kiddo, right? Don't overdo it. One simple question. Examples, you look a little quiet. You want to sit with me? Or how are you feeling today? Even if you did go to the extent of doing an emotions chart, you could maybe, get one printed at a big size, put it by the door, and as kiddos come in, they could move their face underneath the emotion that they're feeling. If you had it lined up like smiley face, sad face, angry face, and maybe some Velcro dots underneath each one. And as they came in, guess what? That's part of the routine. That's part of my consistency. They take their face and they match their emotion for the day. And I, as the teacher, acknowledge it. I see you stuck your face by the sad face today. You want to talk about it now or you want to talk about it later? It's a great way to check in. I'm not overdoing it. It's not taking a lot of time away from my classroom, and I'm still being intentional. So, there are definitely multiple ways you can kind of get that quick emotional check in with your students as they're dropping off for the day. You just kind of have to choose what's best for you and what's best for them, and one that in which you can be consistent with. So, you don't need to do everything. Start with one. I think this is the biggest takeaway I want you guys to get from this training is all of these great tips and things that I've shared. You don't have to do all of them. You only need to do one. If you want to be an overachiever and do all of them, great. But you really only need one to slowly make a difference. So whether that's standing at or near the door, greeting every child by name, adding one calm activity, asking one question. There are multiple ways you can be intentional and present with every single student that comes through your doors to make those first 5 minutes really count. So, That is the end of this training. To receive your clock hour certificate for this training, you will email me at preschooljunchronicles@gmail.com, as you see on the screen. In the subject box, please put the title of the training, which is the first 5 minutes. And in the body of the email, please include your first and last name. And this is what I will put on the certificate, and it will be emailed directly back to you from myself. And if this training added value for you, help me reach more educators and leave me a review. Send me something on Facebook or Instagram, just to let others know that it was worth your time and it added value to your classroom. Again, thank you so very much for attending my training, and I will see you in the next one.